Have you join us?
Thank you so much, UCDMC. How is it going today?
It's going fine. You just made me talk too much. And
We're here now.
okay, Ski, a leading expert in trauma-informed education and peace building.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Okay, and we also have Maxwell Thurston, a seasoned development. He's into sports science. Sports science. Good to have you too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Uche, and apologies for the delay.
No, it's okay. It's okay. They are in the country as part of a collaborative mission with Udini local government and its dynamic chairman, Ake for educators in what we have today. They are also here in the country to unveil the People's Project and what is happening tomorrow. I mean, exponentially impactful. Okay, let's get to talk. Let me start with Noel. What inspired the focus of this training you just had? Even though you don't want to talk about that, but
I think I would just want to correct that impression quickly.
Okay.
We're here as a team and not on anybody's invitation.
Okay.
And we're here because of a project that Alison and I are co-leading, which is called Learning Without Limits. And that project is focused on histories of trauma and learning differences.
Okay.
And these are issues that we've not really talked about, of course, across Africa. In the US, where we're coming from, children with this kind of needs are supported hugely. And we're seeing how the impact of this lack of support, especially in our own context, is affecting our children and how they show up in the classroom. So this project addresses that, and that's why Alison, Maxwell, and I are in the country.
Okay.
And we're also in the country partly because of the Boys to Men Summits that is organized by Boys Champions, which is happening tomorrow, Good Friday, and we're all excited about it. And we planned, a very wonderful event with incredible speakers drawn from different parts of the world who are assembling here in Enugu. So we're super excited about that.
Okay. You seem very passionate about these trainings, and one of the things you talked about at the training was trauma.
Mhm.
I like you to emphasize trauma because a lot of people don't know what trauma is.
I mean, in our country, we see a lot of things happen every day that cause us experiences that we have on daily basis that result to at work, in school, and for our children, it's even a lot more because we don't talk about child mental health in Nigeria. In short, generally, we don't talk about mental health as such. And as a result, trauma affects us in a whole lot of way. Hunger can cause trauma for kids. Actually, we expect these kids to come into the classroom and they learn, without eating in the morning. Imagine a kid who leaves home with both parents fighting early in the morning. How do you expect the child to actually relax and learn? The child will continue to think about the images that he or she may have seen this morning before leaving for school. So these are traumatic experiences that affect how these kids, learn in the classroom. We don't know what the reasons are, but those are as a result of some histories of experiences that may have caused them to develop trauma. And if this traumatic experiences or this trauma is not mitigated, it always leads to a lot of other health challenges in the future. So that's why, a project like Learning with Us.
Limb or can see, but there are children who cannot be focused for a particular amount of time to buttress on some other disabilities, especially the unseen ones. Uh, Go ahead.
Well, there's so many different disabilities. There are disabilities that have to do with the ability, the processing information. So there are disabilities that have to do with the ability to read dyslexia, the ability to sort of decode language. There are disabilities that have to do with writing, the ability to take what's in your head and then put it down on paper. And there's sort of this disconnect, right? So you've got the idea, but it's very difficult for you to put it down on paper. There are disabilities that have to do with math and calculations and really understanding numbers. And then, as you mentioned, there's attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which has such a range and presents what's interesting about something like that when you're talking about attention, which we refer to as ADHD specifically so in the United States, you look for certain things in boys and you look girls present differently. So you're looking for different things. And so it's not like it's such an individual experience. You're referred to as disabilities and difference. And this is how I learned strategies to manage their. But it's so important. Learner. I didn't know that as a child.
Okay.
That it's really hard for me, and I've said it to people here. When they give me their name, I ask them to spell it for me because I literally have to like close my eyes and spell it in my head for it to be in my brain for me to remember it because I'm not an auditory learner. So that's okay. That's how I learn. I need to see things written down. And so really just having a conversation with teachers and expanding their understanding that there is no one size fits all method of learning so that they can then they can encourage learners to explore and understand themselves, and then they can know how to teach differently. There isn't one way to teach.
Okay. No, it gets to you.
Absolutely. So thank you, Uche, again for having me here. It's really a pleasure to be joined. So yeah, I'm kind of a support role in their Learning Without Limits project, but myself, I have a background in sports and exercise and sports science. So I'd always been a really active kid growing up. I always loved all kinds of different sports and running and playing soccer, playing football, skiing, running track and field. And so for me, I got interested in how do we sort of study sports or maybe, doing research into sports as a job. And so pretty much what sports science is looking into movement and exercise and especially how it affects our bodies. We all know, movement and exercise, that it's healthy, but what is it really doing and how is it affecting us? So it's about, what are we eating and how are we turning that into fuel that can fuel our muscles, or how is our brain then controlling our muscles when we're moving? How is that neural connection happening? And for me, what I find really fascinating and where my research is kind of going now is in the motor learning aspect. So how, like, if for kids, if you start playing soccer at the very beginning, you're not going to be that good at it. When you kick the ball, you might kick it way off the goal, or you might not be able to pass very accurately. But as you practice more and more, as you get more and you play more and more, then you learn to get better and better at the process of how do we sort of improve our movements over time through this practice and through this learning. And it's really a kind of neural process and a motor learning process. And for me, where my research is going now, like sports science, it's quite a big field actually, and it encompasses quite a lot. If you can look at athletes and look at, how do we
play? Okay, so how important is this motor skills? Let's talk a bit about it.
We know that movement is really healthy for you, and to be physically active is really healthy for you. And for kids, it is just really important to play and to experiment with their bodies and to move. Kids with different forms of different kinds of things, to let them have experience trying and becoming independent and moving.
You shouldn't carry them all the time?
Yeah, to let them to gain their own independence a little bit and try out different kinds of movements. We know that, for us also, all of us. So I think building these kind of movement skills is important. Back to this learning difference aspect too, that for some kids it's hard to them on the board or writing and drawing out something about the alphabet or learning about something with nature. Some kids, they need to go out and they you can learn is also to do kind of this play-based activity. So we're also really interested in this, how we can integrate sports and different kinds of movement into different ways to learn. And the last thing I'll say is we know also that kids that are more active in schools and that are playing different kinds of school sports, that they're more able to learn. They're more in this like place where they can learn, and that their academic performance is typically higher than kids that are really inactive. So we just know that sports in general is something that's really important for learning in lots of different ways. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Maxwell. Let me get back to Alison. I don't know whether you've looked at the feedback, because I want to ask whether you, if you've gone through the feedback. Okay, you've not. Okay, so one of the issues I raised while I was training was trauma in adults. Okay, so we talked about those in children, and I'm curious to find out how we can help adults deal with theirs so they can better deal with that of the children. Let's talk.
So just to clarify, I'm not a trauma specialist.
Okay.
I do have a background in peace building, and I've done a lot of work on trauma-informed care with security sector, with police officers. But when we spoke with teachers, I used the airplane analogy of the oxygen mask. When you go on an airplane, they talk on yourself before you put it on your child, because you cannot assist your child if you're not taking care of yourself. And it's a similar analogy, right? So teachers and adults who have children or caring for children who have experienced trauma, you have your own trauma. And so if you're not taking care of yourself, whatever emotions you're feeling, not every second the other person does not. And that's okay, right? The body doesn't respond. Not everybody's body responds in the same way. But when we're feeling trauma, we have to be aware. Mindfulness strategies are what help us to manage the body. And it can be something like, we talk to the teachers about a finger massage, right? Like run sensation, and to return feeling a certain energy, like nervousness or anxiety. We can return to our body by grounding and getting a sense of our physicality, right? So one grounding exercise that is so simple and I love it is smell right now. What are 5 things I hear right now? And we're activating the senses and returning to our body in a way that can help us to manage our emotions. And then there's the simple breathing, right? And taking the deep belly breaths, like putting your hand on your belly and taking the deep breath in and making sure that your belly is extending. So it's not a shallow upper body breath, it's a deep belly breath. And it again, to calm the body and to help us to manage what the body's manifestation, that the physiological manifestation of the emotions that we're feeling. It's just so important. And there are these simple strategies that adults can use, and some of them we can teach to children to help them recognize what's happening in their bodies. Am I shaking? My heart is beating faster. I'm shaking a little bit. The tapping exercise, that's another one. But what I tend to do is I recognize and acknowledge that I'm feeling nervous, and that's okay. That's a normal response. It's a normal physiological response if I'm going to go talk in front of a thousand, and naming it to try and calm it.
All right, I'll be open, and when I return, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions or make makeshift contributions.